Hello folks and welcome back to Medieval Total War. I am Conostep and this is going to be part 44 of my early campaign where I'm playing as the Almohads. And this campaign is just about wrapped up here, even though I do have 60 turns in total exactly left in this campaign before it is finished. It is pretty much wrapped up, I'd say. If we look at the points, I'm quite a bit ahead of everyone else, and the other factions just do not seem strong enough to really catch up to me at this point. Although there are definitely some factions that are really filling the voids, filling the vacuums that I've left behind by taking out certain factions like the Danes over here, and then also kind of messing with the Polish, for example. But we've already had a Polish reemergence here. We already have a Hungarian reemergence, which is taking over quite a bit of territory, and the French have taken over the previous Danish territory as well. So I just realized they should probably watch out, because there could be a Danish reemergence just as there has been a Polish one, right? But it looks like the French are being pretty smart about this and keeping their loyalty pretty decent, it looks like. In addition to that, they haven't gone to war with anyone, which is really slick of them. They're at peace with, everyone. And yeah, they've gathered all of this territory and created a, somewhat strong domain just by taking over rebel territory. So that's pretty good for them, and it's definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on these, bigger factions now that I've kind of left some room for them. In addition to the Egyptians as well, the Hungarians and Egyptians sort of incidentally, I'd say, went to war with me by taking territories that I left behind on purpose over in this region. I can't remember, I think the Egyptians took Kiev, and then there was the Polish reemergence. I think that's what happened, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong, but it's one of those. It's a war that they didn't really intend to do, I'd say. And I was able to get that automatic ceasefire with the Hungarians by having my boat leave any sea region that's bordering their regions. But of course, that's not going to work with Egypt, because they do own Egypt itself. So. And I'm bordering them. So I'm not going to be able to get that automatic ceasefire with them, which is kind of annoying, but it's annoying because I'm losing 5,000 florins a turn, which is, it's a hefty bit. And it's also annoying because I only have 86,000 left in my treasury, so that's going to go away pretty fast. Now, does that really matter at this stage of the campaign? Probably not. I potentially could disband some more armies, but I would prefer to hang on to them just in case someone, I don't want to look weak. That would suck if someone chose now in the campaign to make a move on me. And I had to disband roughly 6 stacks. I mean, they were injured stacks, but it was 6 stacks nonetheless of injured, depleted units to basically make room for 2,000. It was like 2,500 florins, I believe, that I had to cut out. So that's quite a few stacks, right? And so, like, how many full strength stacks would I have to get rid of to clear 5,000 in florins? That'd be a bit, I'd say. Maybe not 12, but maybe like 10 or something. And I don't really want to do that. I don't want to be left that weak right now. So I do have to kind of figure that out. Now, that's not counting the Hungarian ports that I've not gone back to trading with. So that is something that I can do. I can bring my boats back in to the Adriatic and start trading again with these 2 Hungarian provinces, and a few of these other places like Moldavia as well. So I can get some of that money back by going back to trading with these provinces. Unfortunately, Greece does not have a port. That's too bad. Yeah, that is too bad. I don't know if that's going to be enough to, recover all 5,000 of those florins that I am losing. I will continue to try to get a ceasefire with the Egyptians. They already have declined at least once, I believe. They really shouldn't be, because they have rebels in Sinai and Arabia, which they're dealing with. I don't think it's a civil war. I didn't mention so. It would say it here, right? Yeah, I think that's how that works. So it's not a civil war, although their king is down to 2 influence, or their sultan. So it wouldn't be so shocking if he had a civil war to deal with. Also, there's a Turkish reemergence, in his territories. Now, they are currently allies, But I wouldn't be surprised if that changed, because the Turks have nowhere else to go other than Egyptian territory. So the Egyptians potentially have some stuff to deal with. And it would be prudent of them to get a ceasefire with me so that they could make money off of trade as well. So here's hoping, right? Here's hoping that we can work something out. However, so anyway, kind of my thing that I wanted to get around to saying though is that, and I kind of touched on this in the last episode, but I'll kind of touch more on it here, which is that I do think this campaign is just about over and done with, right? Now, is there going to be anything really here that's worth viewing or watching or me showing you? I can't say there is, although I could be wrong. Some of these factions could make a move, right? And put some pressure on me. And I guess we'll find out. I have a completionist mindset, so I have to finish this campaign. That's just how my brain works. I can't just kind of call it good and be like, all right, it's done enough. I can't do that. So I have to keep playing. And in addition to that, I also can't just keep spam clicking enter until the campaign's over. Because, again, my brain doesn't work that way. I can't... I don't really role play these games too much, to a degree. But I still do play them somewhat as if it's not a game. Like... as if I don't know that this game ends in the year 1453. And that's part of the reason why I am going to actually take some efforts to try to get a ceasefire with Egypt, instead of just taking that 5,000 florins hit and saying like, oh yeah, I'm sure I'll be fine. Like, I'm still going to win this campaign. No, I'm going to keep trying to get that ceasefire, right? I'm going to keep trying to fix my economy throughout the next 60 turns, as long as it takes to fix things, because that's just how I play the game. I don't want to just assume things and pretend like, I'm going to win on points, because the point system, even though I do think it's my preferred method of playing this game, I understand that it's gamey, right? It is pretty gamey to use a Glorious Achievements point system for an historical setting, but, I also understand the purpose of this mode, right? It is to sort of create the sense of achievement, right? The sense of, building something as a faction, as a people, as a nation, that's a little bit more unique than just conquering everything. And I think that on the level of creating this realm of prestige, through like building certain buildings and having a certain amount of money that you're making, and of course owning territories as well. I think that's all a really fun thing to do that does have a certain historical authenticity to it, despite the fact that, we're just counting points here. So I do want to continue to play this campaign as if it's not a game, as I was saying. But, is there really going to be much for you to watch that's interesting or fun? I'm not much of a salesman, so I'm just going to say probably not. So unless you're just going to support the channel by putting this on in the background and clicking that like button just to kind of, help me out, which I do really appreciate, I'm not going to tell you that there's really a lot of, stuff for you to see in the next few episodes. And this is something that I'm going to have to really think about how I want to do this going forward in future campaigns, because the Glorious Achievements mode can have this, period at the end where potentially there's not a whole lot of action. Maybe not so much in the later periods, like the high period and the late period. Maybe those are a little bit more action-packed, but I think in the early campaign, it can be easy to pull out at, far ahead with a lot of with a big points lead, and then just kind of coast that to victory. Potentially, I don't have a ton of experience with this game, so that might be the case. And maybe this is the only faction when this happens with. The fact that the Almohads just make so many goddamn points it's been a pretty easy campaign altogether, other than a few, difficulties that I have had to deal with. It's been pretty easy overall. And for example, with my Aragon campaign, I do think that's going to come down to the finish, with a pretty big war at the end. So perhaps going forward, this isn't something that I really have to overthink. Maybe in general, most factions will play out pretty exciting, till, all through all phases of the campaign. Whereas just with this one, I'm kind of left thinking like, okay, what am I going to do here? So it's something that I will kind of go to the drawing board on. I will heavily edit the however much longer I have left to play in this campaign. These videos aren't necessarily going to be close to an hour. They could just be 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. I don't know. And then in future campaigns, if there's an ending like this again, I will have to think about how I want to do it, because there's a temptation for me to just, what I could do is essentially just record everything and then really condense it. If there's not much that happens, I can just really condense it into like just a couple 10-minute episodes that I narrate over the events of the last 50 or so turns of that campaign, and just really kind of cut things down so that at least I can recap the ending of the campaign so that you can know what happens, but then I'm not wasting your time and my time, really. So that's an idea going forward. It's not something that I'm quite ready to do right now. I will be kind of experimenting with more of certain narrated aspects of the campaign in my next campaign, which I will talk about when I get to that. So I'm not going to really cover that too much here. So I'm not quite ready to do that now, is what I'm trying to say. So for now, I'm going to do this the dumb, boring way, and just keep playing and keep talking when something happens. But as I was saying, heavily edited. I say that, I know I've been talking for 10 minutes already, but yeah, I do plan on just kind of not skipping, but just kind of, working through these last few turns pretty methodically. I don't really plan on building or training much because, well, for one thing, my economy is kind of screwed right now, but I can do some things to try to fix that and get that in order. And yeah, I'll just keep kind of cracking along and see how we do here. Well, now I have played a fair few turns, and I just have not been able to get this ceasefire with the Egyptians. I've been really bugging them with my spies. I have spies in quite a few regions, in fact, like half of their regions, and I have been spying on their generals, trying to get some traits, the bad traits out. And I have the assassinator trait on most of the Egyptian generals. And this is the really bad one. This is going to give them -5 loyalty and then -40 happiness if they are governor of a province. And I've been doing this, and then the Egyptians and the Turks did go to war. The Egyptians did soundly defeat the Turks. And there hasn't really been anything bad for the Egyptians. They just, they've built up from a 2-influence sultan to a 4-influence sultan. And yeah, that's kind of it. That's been the story. Yeah, I've not been able to kind of bug them enough to get a ceasefire with me. I've not been able to destabilize the region using my spies, which is interesting, because I thought that'd kind of work, but yeah, my spies they're not really getting the job done. So, as you can see, so I'm losing 645 florins per turn, and this is actually the lowest that like the best that it's been this entire episode so far, this entire play session. For most of this play session, it's been like, I've been losing like 2,000 per turn, and it just got there because I just was able to open up, I was able to defeat some Egyptian boats, and I think that the Poles may have built another port up here. I'm not sure, but I think someone else built another port, because that's quite a leap. That's quite a leap from where I just was. So yeah, but as you can see, my treasury is just below 5,000 florins, and it's getting to the point where I think I might actually have to invade Egypt again, just to kind of, really use my strong hand diplomacy to try to get this ceasefire with them. I think what I would like to do is go into Egypt. Egypt doesn't have a port anyway, so I can go in there and beat them up and, take Egypt. I would give it back, or I will, make it go rebel or something. But I don't really want to go full on with a naval invasion. Do Palestine, Tripoli, Anatolia, Nicaea, Crimea, Khazar. I don't really want to do that. Georgia as well. If Egypt doesn't work, and they still haven't given me a ceasefire, then I will start to do that one by one. But I want to leave as many provinces with ports available to trade with, potentially, once we can get the ceasefire. So that is something that I will be having to look forward to in the next episode, just so that I can try to sort out my economy I don't have much left in this campaign. I'm in the year 1419. So yeah, I've played quite a few turns in this episode, or this little play session. So yeah, I'm coming along, but I do need to fix that economy. Also, as far as like agents not really working, I thought that I could use my second tier religious agent, my imam. I always get those mixed up. And I thought that, so it's my understanding that imams kind of work like how the shinobi would work in Shogun Total War, whereas you can use cumulative effects to build up, your preferred religion in certain regions, which of course in a Catholic faction like the French, having them turn Muslim you would think would be really bad for them. Toulouse has 91% Islamic, Aquitaine 87% Islamic, and Burgundy, there's barely any soldiers here. There's like just one unit, and it's 81% Islamic, and they're still not having issues with their population loyalty. And so I thought that kind of by messing with their religion that would kind of mess with them a little bit, but it's not really doing a whole lot, to be honest. So yeah, I kind of stopped training them up just because I couldn't really afford it anymore. But yeah, that's something that was a little bit disappointing, because I kind of thought that you could use them in this way, sort of like Shinobi in Shogun Total War, where it was kind of a guaranteed thing. The magic number was like 6 Shinobi would basically guarantee a rebellion within a turn or two. And yeah, I understand balancing that out so that you can't just use spies like that in this game, but it would be nice to still be able to use religious agents for more than just, well, it's just bizarre, right? Because like if religion doesn't really matter, then what's the point? I still do like using the agents just to have a spy that's in many cases just left alone in enemy territory. That's always nice. I suppose I could do that with emissaries, but it would have been nice if this causes issues. And I know that in rare instances it does. Sometimes I will see like an Islamic rebellion in one of these provinces, and I'm like, oh yeah, I must have done that, because why else would there be an Islamic rebellion in one of these provinces? So, but from what I've seen, a lot of times the province where that happens, there's usually issues with it anyway, and it's a little bit disappointing that I have not been able to cause any issues like homegrown style, like not anything. France is pretty stable. They're not at war with anyone. They're just kind of sitting tight, hanging out, having a jolly good time. And it's kind of disappointing that I couldn't start anything by myself, without them having any external issues. And that was with a little bit of spy help as well. I didn't go too hard in the paint with spies with the whole France thing. I was focusing my spies mostly with Egypt, but I still do have a few spies in these territories, just kind of having their own debuff as well for population loyalty. So that has not been enough. So that's a little bit too bad. And of course, this is a learning experience. So, maybe there's something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe the answer is just more, but I don't know if that is the answer or would be the answer, because this is my best religious agent. And as you can see, the numbers are favoring Islam. So, I've done the job. This has worked, but it's not really having the effect that I was attending. So that's a little bit unfortunate. In any case, going into the next episode, as I was saying, I will have to actually kind of go into Egypt and kind of mess with them a little bit. And I have plenty of armies. I have these armies in Cyrenaica that can head over right onto Egypt. They probably won't even fight me. And then if I do need to actually invade some provinces by ocean, I still do have just a mountain of forces here in Castile. And if that still doesn't work, then the fact that I have, played this many turns, I probably could, start disbanding a few armies, because like I was saying before, I only losing 645 florins per turn, so it wouldn't take much to get back in the positive from that number. But in any case, that's all gonna have to wait until next time. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and thank you very much for watching. This has been Conostep, playing Medieval Total War. Thank you very much, and goodbye.